Hey folks, it's Kimberly Crow, and we are back with another episode of the Entrepreneur Experts Cafe. This time I have Consuela Munoz here with me. She is absolutely amazing, and she is a shiny object syndrome expert. Welcome to the program, Consuela.
Hi, Kimberly. It's great to be with you today.
Super glad to have you. So how did you become an expert in shiny object syndrome?
Well, by being a sufferer, right? Like I have a severe case of shiny object syndrome and realized one day, like, dang, this is getting in my way. I'm going to have to figure out a way out of this mess I've gotten myself into.
All right. So when you had decided that you were going to build a program, you're helping other people be able to defeat their shiny object syndrome as well. Is that right?
Yes, we
Right.
want to get as many folks out of this cycle as possible so that small business owners can actually have success and do what they set out to do.
All right. Well, how do we know if we have shiny object syndrome?
Oh, so obviously you've heard some of my things. There's a bunch of ways that we can know if we have shiny object syndrome. One of my, favorite ones is if you are setting a new annual goal every 3 months, you might have shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. So if you're like every 3 months, you're like, next year, I'm going to do all of this. Right. And then 3 months later, you're like, nah, next year, I'm going to do all of this.
No, it's every 3 months. This year, I'm going to do something like every 3 months. Like, no, my goal for this year is this. Like you're changing it. Every time you see something new that's super awesome, that's what you're now going to go after for your goal for the year, which is crazy. It doesn't even make sense, but that's what happens.
What are you seeing some of the other people do that have come to you for help and things that they've done? I know one of them was that they buy a lot of websites, a lot of domains. Is that right?
Yeah. So, if your first instinct every time you have an idea is to buy that domain name, you might have shiny object syndrome, right? Like, I better, I'm going to start this business. I'll get the domain name in place and I'll figure it out as I go.
Yeah.
Which, part of all this is being entrepreneurs, like, it's almost like a badge of honor, right? To have shiny object syndrome. Like, yeah, I've got shiny object syndrome. Woohoo, look at me. And part of what makes us amazing entrepreneurs is that we do have some of those traits. Like we'll have an idea and we will be willing to go after it. We've got initiative, we've got momentum, touch of impulsivity. Like we're going to go get it, which can be really good.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it becomes a habit and becomes a cycle and it becomes an excuse to keep us from being successful, right? Like if I'm constantly starting something new, that's why I'm not successful. So then we're in that cycle of like, but then I'll try this thing, or we get desperate. Like I just have to have success. So I'll try this thing and I'll try this thing. Bob swears that if I do steps 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to make it. And so we'll chase Bob's thing for a week or two and like, well, that didn't work. And then so we never stay in one place long enough to actually get the traction to get the success that we need.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that that's true for a lot of us. I've witnessed it in the people that I've worked with. I've felt it myself. And it is something where you're really proud of it because you can do a lot of things, but are you finishing a lot of things? Are you completing? Are you following through with things? And not everything, you don't have to follow through with all of them, but are you following through with enough of them to achieve a level of success and personal satisfaction as well? Does that have something to do with it?
Yes, personal satisfaction. I mean, one of the reasons I think you do so well is because you know what's important for you, that it has to be fun. And I feel the same kind of thing. For me, if it's not fun, it's not going to get done. And what happens is when you're in that place where you need to stick with something in order for it to be successful, that's nowhere near as much fun or as exciting as chasing that new thing, right? So it becomes more of a chore until you can get to the point where it is successful. And then you can start having that satisfaction of the success being greater than the excitement of chasing something new. But you have to stay in something long enough for that to show up.
So I had a mentor one time who said, I was doing summits, and now I do them all. Like I help other people create summits, and it's really great. So my first summit was that shiny object syndrome. Like, let's do this. I've never done this before, right? And it was kind of a train wreck. And the next time it was like, all right, I know what I'm doing now. I'm going to do it better, right? So then it was also sort of this new thing to chase. Like, can I improve? And then the third time I did it, I was like, it's not monetizing. I think I'm going to give up. And my mentor, he said, are you having fun doing it? And I said, yes, it's fun, but it's not monetizing. And he said, why don't you keep doing it until it does? And I was like, oh, that could work. And so then I did 4 and 5, and suddenly it started monetizing. It was great. And it was just the stick to itiveness that I needed. And it was still fun, but I needed to stick with it and not give up too early in the process. And now I make a lot of money, not only doing my own summits, but helping other people do theirs as well.
Yeah. But that was the key though. Like you were ready to like, well, this obviously isn't working. So let me abandon it and try something else that will be just as fun and just as exciting. So if you had done that and you'd moved on to something else, that could have been, really exciting as well, but it might have had the same effect. Like if you did so many of them, let's say you're like, okay, I'm going to do podcasts instead. So you start doing podcasts, which we're on, right? But you start doing a podcast and you're like, oh, this isn't working either. And then you abandon that, right? So it is something to get past the point where it becomes successful.
Yeah.
And we're bombarded, right? As small business owners, as entrepreneurs, creatives, we are bombarded every week, if not every day, with, hey, try this thing. It's going to be the thing that works. And so we can get, sucked into that. And, I read somewhere that all entrepreneurs are adrenaline junkies, right? But some of us are afraid of heights and small places. And so we don't get that rush from jumping off a building. We get that rush from trying a new software or, joining a new kind of networking group. I mean, even going to networking events can be a bit of a shiny object syndrome, right? Like if your strengths are in Relator, that might be a place where you're tempted. So let's say you go to 2 or 3 networking events every day. Okay, that seems like a lot. That's not my strength, so that wouldn't be. But what if you were doing that? The problem with that is it's new and exciting. You meet new people every time. You're having great conversations, but you're not spending any time in the follow-up and the things that come after.
Yeah.
But you feel like you're busy and you feel like you're doing stuff and it's, but now you get into that cycle.
Yeah.
Here it is like, oh, well, next week I should probably do 3 a day then, or I should do more. Or like you get into that cycle and we start agreeing with ourselves that we say, well, if I'm doing all this things and I'm not successful, see, I'm right. And we start knowing that we're right by keep chasing these things. And part of us feels good that we're right, even though being right is not good here, right? So that's the trouble we can get ourselves into. And now it's, what do we do now to figure out how do we stop? How do we stop that cycle? How do we learn to stay in one place long enough to have success? And interesting, you mentioned a mentor. That sometimes you need someone else to step in and help you. It's like losing weight. We all know we can lose weight by ourselves, right? Like okay, I have to stop eating Snickers every day. Okay, I get it. But if we have somebody there that's like, did you have a Snickers today? Like that makes a difference versus me getting my Snicker for myself, right?
Yeah, definitely. Having a mentor and doing it with friends and getting help from somebody who knows is really, really powerful. So speaking of that, if people want to work with you directly to be able to tame their shiny object syndrome, how can they do that?
Well, so I have a quiz. We were talking earlier about how do you know if your shiny object has crossed over and is now, stalling your success. So if you go to shinyquiz.com, you can take this quick quiz and find out how bad a case of shiny object syndrome do you have. Now, I'm not assuming that all of you listening have it, but a lot of people do, right? And so find out. And when you do that, then you can download 10 simple techniques for defeating shiny object syndrome for entrepreneurs. And that can help you get started on your way to taming the craziness.
I love it. All right. shinyquiz.com. Go check it out. This has been just really fun because I enjoy you so much, Consuela. You are just a wonderful human being. I love your energy. I love what you bring to the world. And I love how you're helping entrepreneurs and tame that shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
But before we let you go, any final words for our crew?
If it's not fun, it's not going to get done.
Those are words to live by. I totally love it. All right, Consuela, thanks so much for being here for another episode of Entrepreneur Experts Cafe. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time. Cheers.